Welcome back to the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Today, an awesome interview I did with Roze, discussing some of her latest songs and her big plans for 2019. Remember, you can listen to this podcast on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and JacksonNeillPodcast.com, the new home for all of the podcasts I do. And also, quick mention, this was a video interview I did over Skype with Millie. So if you're not on a video platform, you know the drill. Go down there in the description and click on the first link so you can check out the video as well as the audio portion of this interview. So today I talked to Millie about her recent singles here in the end of 2018 into 2019. We also touched on what she's currently working on, other stuff she has planned for this year. Definitely a lot of big plans for her coming up in terms of thinking about projects, maybe tours in the future, different collaborations, things like that. She really has a lot of stuff going on. So here's my conversation with Millie about all of that. I want to start off, how was your 2018?
It was awesome. My 2018 was good. Learned a lot musically. Worked on a lot of new stuff. I want to say 2019 is going to be a lot crazier than 2018 was for me. 2018 was kind of like a growing, learning, chill year for me. I got married though.
Oh, congratulations.
So as far as family goes, like aside from music, the family and like personal life was awesome. But as far as musically goes, it was just more like chill, learn, stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I noticed you released the two singles, Lifted and Connections. Can you tell me a little bit about those two tracks?
Yes, so Connections I actually was sitting on for probably about a year before I put out, maybe a year and a half. I self-produced it, and the reason it took me so long to put out was because I kept going back to it as far as like production goes. And listen, like it's missing something. It's just not hitting hard enough for me. So I hit up one of the local producers here, one of my really good friends named Roze, aka OG, and was like, hey, listen to this and tell me what you feel like it needs. And he went in there, was like, yeah, I think we could just add like some bass. I think he added like a kick and then it was like one melody line in there, or like the twinkle note that you hear like in the chorus part. So he went in there and added a few things and I was like, there we go, it's done. So it ended up being my first self-produced, co-produced track, because I've like self-produced things before, but I've never actually co-produced with somebody. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy sometimes you just get one other pair of ears to listen to that and be like, oh, you're missing this, but for someone, it's you're like banging your head against a wall, like, what's going on with this?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how...
And sorry, I didn't know if I answered. Lifted was produced by John Santana here, really awesome producer in Nashville, and co-written with Michael McQuaid. And that kind of just came together naturally. There wasn't really anything like planned or anything crazy. It's just a track we all worked on. And I was like, hey, I need to put this out because it's dope. So
that's sometimes the best way to do it. I mean, you can definitely hear it's a natural kind of feel to it. There's nothing forced.
Thank you.
Also last year, I wanted to mention this. You worked with the hip-hop artist KB on his project, Era of the Try Hard.
Yeah.
I've actually had KB on the podcast before. Can you just tell me a little bit about working with him?
Yes, he is an awesome artist. He's just so creative, and I've actually known him for many, many years. I mean, since I started doing like music here in Nashville, I want to say I was like a teenager or something like that. I remember the first, actually OG, Roze, so the producer that I worked with Connections on, when I first started, because I was in a singing group at first, when I first started doing solo stuff, I want to say I was like 17, 18, something like that. I would go to OG studio to work with him on things, and I was like, hey, hook me up with like some really dope rappers that can do like some good features on some stuff. And KB and then Petty, I don't know if you know Petty, 615 here in Nashville as well, ended up being the first two features that I ever put on tracks of mine so many years ago. I never released the songs, but that was kind of how the relationship built with KB. He's just so awesome. And it was kind of like now, later on, him hitting me up to do a feature was like heck yeah, because back in the day, like, you have my back and you've always done things for me and you're awesome. You're an awesome artist. So just came together pretty naturally, and he knew exactly what he wanted when I got in there. It's like, put on some harmony notes, do this, do your thing. And it just worked out. So it's awesome.
And I really loved the features. I loved that album when it first came out. So it's really cool for me to be able to talk to you about that, because it was one of my favorite projects of last year.
Yeah, that project was dope. I couldn't believe when I walked into the studio and he let me hear, because he like kind of was like ghost for a little while. I was always wondering, like, what has Katie been up to? What has he been doing? And when I listened to that new music, I was like, wow, you can tell you've really been, crafting this. So that was an honor for sure.
Definitely. So, you kind of mentioned you had a 2018 in terms of musically, a little bit of a chill year, had a lot of stuff going on in your personal life. Congratulations on getting married. But now in 2019, how have you maybe shifted your focus? How are you feeling heading into this year?
Well, for me, I've always had the mindset of get stuff, put it out. Like, not to say Connections and Lifted was like that, but I've always felt like I needed to rush. Like, I always feel like time was against me. Like, when I get music, I'll be like, oh my gosh, it's been too much time has passed. I haven't put out any music. I need to drop something. So I would feel like that. Like, as far as Lifted goes, I was like, I have it. It's here. I haven't released anything. I just need to put something out. And I'm kind of trying to shift my focus and my mindset a little bit. Instead of letting time be against me, I really want to take my time now. Because I released Lifted. It's been some months, and usually by now I would be kind of freaking out, like, oh my gosh, I have to drop something. It's been too long. Like, the people that have been following me are be like losing, traction or whatever. But now I'm just in a place where I just really want to take my time, really just get solid bodies of work done and together. And kind of like re-image things before I put things out. So that's where my headspace is now, like taking my time, really crafting things out, making sure that they're perfect. And I'm also pregnant right now. I'm 5 months pregnant.
Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. So that new mindset as well of like family life and just, building it's a whole new world for me. And I no longer feel rushed to do things, which sounds weird.
That's kind of interesting you mentioned that, because it feels like any artist I talk to nowadays, the conversation always comes up of how much music should you put out in a certain amount of time. Because, you mentioned it there, you feel rushed. You're not the only artist that feels like that. A lot of them feel like they have to be putting out stuff constantly because there's such a big turnover. But I think if you look at, especially even like artists at the top or artists on every single level, when they take their time and they put out the right body of work, it gets the right kind of response.
Yeah. And that's what I'm hoping for this next come around. I'm hoping that I have, a bunch of stuff and it's ready and it's solid and I took my time with it, and then it's like go from there. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So the stuff you're currently working on, is it more of singles, an EP, a full-length project? What kind of direction are you feeling like it's going in right now?
Yeah, well, so far, out of everything that I have, I know for sure there's a couple singles out of those. I haven't quite decided if I want to create an EP out of those yet, but I do know that at some point this year, I do want to release some sort of like solid body of work that's not just single based. So I feel like there's been like the last EP or last actual project that I put out was the Neill Roze project that was self-produced, and that was a while ago. Mm-hmm. So I need some sort of body of work. So hopefully out of everything that I have, I don't want to make any promises on anything like what I'm going to do, but there's going to be for sure some singles out of whatever body of work there is. So we'll see.
Gotcha. You talk a lot about I'm noticing you're talking a lot about self-producing, putting a lot of it yourself, not only on the vocals, but, on the production side of the track as well. What's your mindset going into when you go to produce a song?
Yeah, well, I'll have a melody or I'll have an idea, and maybe there'd be some times where I can't get to a producer in time or it's just not accessible to me. And I'm like, I have all this stuff. And I also went to school for music production. So it's just the mindset of like, oh, well, I hear it in my head, so I could put it down. I could I could get those ideas just as well. So it's kind of like that type of mindset. So I'll start with melody and maybe some maybe some drums in there, and then I'll lay some vocals down and then build from there. So yeah.
Gotcha. My question would be, because I always find this interesting with artists that, produce their own stuff, how do you think tracks that you produce yourself may be different from ones where you get help, like you said, with a co-producer or another producer in the studio?
Yes, great question. I feel like they turn out to be a little bit more different just because maybe I have a little bit more me and like what I hear in my head, because sometimes it can be hard to relay that message to a producer when you're working with them, because it's like impossible to like pull out of my head and like place it in there. It's like, this is what I want it to sound like. So it'll end up being it always ends up being, a joint thing regardless when you're working with another producer. Not to say it has to be like all me when I'm working with them, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. It's not going to always be just your sound. It's going to be your sound and their sound. So for me, I feel like it ends up sounding a little bit more organic, possibly, when I self-produce things here at home.
I could see how that works, because when you have another, it's not like it's not like a good or bad thing. It's just kind of like when you have another producer, it's like, well, they might, like you said, they might have a different idea for a melody or something along that lines. And I just find that interesting, cool when artists can not only provide the vocals and that part of the track, but also help on the production side as well. Because then, like you said, it's completely you. It's completely your vision that you get from your head.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're an independent artist. I want to touch on that, and just how has it been, I guess, as a journey being an independent artist, especially now in 2019?
Yeah, it's been good, and it has its upsides and downsides. Of course, like, having the freedom and the creative freedom is awesome, but at times you do get frustrated because you may not have that full team or that full backing or whatever that other artists may have that aren't fully independent, you know what I mean? So it can be frustrating at times doing everything yourself or trying to do everything yourself, because I don't necessarily want to forever, it gets hard. Like you can't, like it pulls you away from the creative side when you're having to also think about like the marketing side and how you're going to promote yourself. You can't fully focus on your music if you're doing that too.
Exactly. It's got to be tough to write a song when you're trying to think about booking a tour or what your cover art's going to be or what's happening.
Yeah, you're going to lose out on something. So, hopefully that's another goal of mine, is also to build a bigger team and just really start building those relationships, because right now it's kind of a very small one. So I really want to work on that.
Definitely. So also in 2019, you mentioned these songs you're working on. You want to probably produce some kind of body of work. I just want to know, just how are you feeling going into this year? How are you feeling for the rest of this year going forward?
I feel awesome. My headspace has been it's hard to explain, because I don't want to say that for the past few years I felt down, because I haven't really felt down, but I felt kind of stuck, I guess, maybe like creatively or like in my personal life, like stuff just always seemed so weird, like it just wasn't working out. And now I just feel very like, I don't know, it's going to be okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I'm not having to, I don't know what the word is. I'm losing my words, but it could be possibly because I'm growing a whole life that's like bringing positivity through me. I really don't know. I can't explain it, but I just feel like everything's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. And I really love the new stuff that I'm working on. It sounds different than like some of my older stuff that I've worked on before. I have another track with OG, Oliver Roze. This one isn't co-produced. It is fully produced by him. So that'll be pretty awesome. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I just feel really great about this year.
That's awesome. I kind of want to ask this now that you brought it up. You mentioned these like big personal life changes you have. How do you feel like that's influenced you maybe creatively?
Well, I guess like us as artists sometimes may feel like, what's our purpose? You know what I mean? We'll question our purpose at times. And, or we'll get discouraged because maybe we're not generating the following we want. I think that can really like bring us down. We get writer's block and like all this stuff. So when you really like also, start doing things for yourself in your personal life and self-care and really like help cross that over into your music instead of keeping them separate, because I think that was for me, I was keeping them separate for so long, like fighting it. You bring them together and just really try to spiritually, be better at both together. It really changes it. And I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, you certainly sound like you got a lot of stuff going for you. I mean, thank you so much for doing this interview.
Thank you.
Again, a big thank you to Millie for coming onto the podcast. Remember, go down in the description of this video. There, I'm going to have links to all of her stuff, whether you want to listen to her music, watch some of her latest music videos, visit her on Instagram and Twitter, all of that great stuff. So make sure to go down there in the description and click those links and check out Millie Roze's stuff. She's a really cool songwriter that I really, really enjoy coming out of Nashville right now. I seem to have a lot of people from Nashville on the show recently, have even more people from Tennessee coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. But she's one that I'm really, really got excited and happy I got the chance to talk with here. And that will wrap it up for this episode of the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. Remember, go to jacksonneillpodcast.com. There you can find this podcast as well as all my other ones, my music and my sports one, where I discuss those latest topics in those fields. So make sure to visit jacksonneillpodcast.com. Link to that's down in the description. Also down in the description is a link to my Patreon page where you can become a subscriber and support the podcast. And for doing that, you get access to exclusive bonus content. Coming up in the April edition of the bonus content is bonus content from this very interview with Millie. I talked to her about some of her favorite YouTube stuff, favorite songs at the moment, talking about A Star Is Born, TV shows, all of that cool stuff. I talked to Millie about that. So you make sure you want to subscribe and get the bonus content every single month. That's going to be a cool recurring theme. You get access to bonus content from all my interviews, an extra sports podcast segment, as well as an extra music podcast segment where I discuss my favorite album of the month. So go visit my Patreon page as well. Also, last links down there in the description are links to my social media accounts at JacksonNeill20 on Instagram and Twitter. Go give those a follow. I like to think I post some pretty cool content on those platforms, so give me a follow on there if you do so. Well, that's everything I have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.